I'd like to go ahead and recognize President De La Torre for her report.
Thank you, Nola. I want to thank you for your leadership serving as chair last year and congratulate you on your reelection. I'd like to also recognize and appreciate the full Senate body. Without you and others in the community, we would not be as successful as we have been in already accomplishing more than 70% of our strategic plan goals, growing our research enterprise and expanding and providing even more meaningful and relevant experience to our students. I'm focusing my report on 4 primary topics today. Foremost, faculty support and faculty tenure track density, which are strategic priorities for our university and can't be divorced from our path to R1. Our research and student achievements, as we continue to be the most diverse research university in California and highly successful in closing achievement gaps, our growth trajectory, and fourth, I like to also focus on, and this will be actually included throughout this particular presentation, the budget projections facing our university, the CSU system, the state, and our plans to address funding gaps. So I first want to start with faculty density. I'll begin with my commitment to the tenure track goals for faculty. And I do appreciate the ongoing conversations among Senate members about faculty tenure track density on our campus. I think this is a conversation that is relevant to our system and universities across the nation, and felt this robust dialogue was critically important. I do want to thank Stephen Schellenberg in particular for his detailed analysis and comments advocating for this initiative as well. I also remind people that if one looks at my career, I was a faculty member for more than 30 years before I transitioned in administration. I understand the criticality of tenured faculty to the lifeblood of the university. And quite frankly, administrators come and go, but faculty mold the institutions for decades into the future. Thus, our attention should be on how we increase the number of tenure track faculty, of course, but also how we wisely support our lecturers in meeting our academic and research mission. I want to really be careful here, not in our discussion about tenure track faculty, that we're not demonizing or denigrating our lecturers who are critical to our teaching mission. In fact, many of our lecturers are represented by the CFA, and this is unlike some of the majority of comparison institutions that are being referenced. They have higher protections and are truly outstanding. So let me open up with that, because I don't want any discussion of tenure track density to inadvertently harm our lecturers. We are also certainly aware that across the nation, states have implemented legislation and higher education systems have introduced changes that make it seems that faculty jobs are less important and far less secure. In fact, if you can see the discussions in states like Florida, Georgia, Texas, Louisiana, and to be direct, even in California, there are real restrictions on our ability to achieve our goals, whether it is a state budget which consistently underfunds education or specific legal limitations and mandates. As an aside, I also want to caution us in creating a zero-sum narrative when we discuss staff positions and faculty positions. While there are resource limitations everywhere, often the funding sources differ. Now for some of the meat of the discussion, according to the AAUP data, our neighbors in the U system have an average tenure density in the 60s. Some UC campuses like UC Berkeley have a tenure density around 51% by head count. Our peer group of universities, which recently transitioned from R2 to R1 during the last 2 cycles, have a tenure density of 52%. There is a very wide continuum across more longstanding R1s, as Stevens and other pointed out, but the average has gone down almost universally. So it's a problem beyond that is really beyond SDSU, and it is a growing challenge for many R2 and R1 universities across the country. Finances play a part, of course. When I started as an assistant professor at CSU Long Beach in the 80s, the average CSU had close to 80% of its operating budget coming from the state. Now we're lucky to have half that. At the same time, expectations about what we provide for our students have grown substantially. But speaking as a faculty member here, There is something deeper about this loss of tenured faculty across higher education, something that plays into public distrust, into a shifting away from critical thought and discourse. There are many public pressures I have to navigate now as a president, but also trends I can push back against. The loss of tenured faculty across higher education is a worrying trend that I will strongly push against. That means more tenure track hires are needed. Now, there's an important distinction to make here. The decline in the tenure density, which is a ratio that can vary by head count or full-time equivalents, or the decline strictly in the head count of faculty. These can diverge dramatically from one another. In fact, the last time we saw a major rise in tenure track density across the CSU was after the Great Recession because of the layoffs of lecturers. So just as a reminder, in the denominator, you have lecturers and tenure track faculty. And so after you decrease that, you're going to have a higher tenure density. Obviously, tenure density on its own is not a perfect measure of progress. You also have to look at absolute numbers and control for teaching load. So if we look at absolute numbers of tenure track faculty from 2017, 5 years ago, we were at 727 tenure track faculty at San Diego State. This was a year before I arrived. We are now at 821, or a net growth of about 100 tenure track faculty. At the same time, our total lecturers have also grown from 432 to 593. So that's a 13% growth in our total tenure track faculty over the last 5 years, but a higher percentage growth in lecturers at the same time. So we are growing. But something else struck me as I was diving into these data is just how different the picture is if you ignore versus control for teaching load. AAUP publishes an interesting analysis of full-time faculty at universities. This looks at keeping the instructional and load constant, really looking at apples to apples and not just headcount, and compares tenure track faculty to full-time lecturers. This is data from 2021. And that's the most recent data. Compared this way, our tenure track density is 60% compared to 53% at UC San Diego. Using the CSU criteria of tenure track density, which is based on FTEF, not headcount, for our 2023 College of Sciences, the tenure track density is 73% this year, and for our College of Engineering is 76%. But in some of our more GE heavy colleges, we're naturally lower. Our lowest tenure track density is in fact at our Imperial Valley campus, which is at 42%. Still, the ratio has been going in the wrong direction. We must also not forget that lecturers are a critical asset to research active universities, and they often are not only outstanding instructors, but they also play a critical role when faculty buy themselves out of their teaching loads for their research. In fact, it's interesting, when we explored the tenure density of the UC, it was clear many R1 universities appear to have higher tenure density only because they use TAs so heavily in their instructional purpose instead, rather than hiring lecturers. Just as a point of information, they do not include TAs in their tenure density estimates. The other point that I want to stress here is that we must also trust the department chairs to make the right local adjustments for a department when and if they need lecturers. This includes the right mix of tenure track faculty and lecturers for their departments. For example, as we increase our research portfolio, tenure track faculty members may not be available in specific departments to instruct large GE classes that may fluctuate dramatically from fall to spring semester. Now, though, it is time to come back to the heart of the issue. My commitment today is to continue to hire net new tenure track faculty. So I want to say I'm prepared to continue our work together with the provosts, the deans, and department chairs to further increase the total number of tenure track hires. And I'm pleased to share that we're committed to 25 net new, not replacement, tenure track faculty lines over the next 2 years. I'm also committed to reporting out our progress after each faculty hiring cycle on how we are reversing this larger trend of declining tenure density. There should be no doubt that I'm committed to working with you to make progress to improve our faculty tenure track density. Working closely with the provosts and deans, I know we can strategically address these issues. With regard to the suggested policy to link the hire of any MPP classified roles to tenure track density, we also need to know its limitations. Whether or not we agree with it, we need to be clear that the CSU system determines the purview of human resource management and subject matter expertise. Neither the president nor the local academic senates have sole jurisdiction over the final determination made under human resources policy. Upon consultation with the chancellor's office, it was recommended not to move forward with tying the classification of one employee position to that of another. For example, we cannot put this university in a position where our Title IX director cannot hire an investigator. Investigators are MPPs. In addition, our grounds and custodial teams should have the right to elevate a custodian to a custodial supervisor. This is an MPP. For those who are not aware, all our trades workers, custodians, and facilities professionals who have supervisory responsibilities are MPPs. This is a requirement of the CBA. Our URAD division has seen one of the largest increases in MPP lines over 5 years, but more than 2/3 of their salary for those lines are funded by gift fees and other philanthropic sources. And they're also on track to cover 100% of their own salaries. And just an aside, if you compare these last 5 years to the prior 5 years, there has been a net increase in philanthropic activity by $150 million. And in the reporting requirements provided by the Research Foundation about our URAD staff, the actual efficiency measures in terms for every dollar, if you look during the prior period, is about a $7 return for every dollar invested. So the efficiency measures are also pretty exceptional. MPP lines are also include workers all across KPBS and auxiliary entities. As a final example, our chief of police must be able to address a critical safety need in our residence halls or on our campus or at Imperial Valley. Often the classification of those roles includes the MPP category. So we cannot directly impede that work. However, we can and will carefully consider each. Already I have put into place a second and rigorous level of review for any line which HR determines must be an MPP. This is to ensure that there is a strong argument from the requesting unit. But the examples I gave are demonstrative of the many areas where the growth and needs of our residential students or increased audit and compliance requirements or CBA requirements on our many staff units require the expert judgment of human resources staff to determine job classification. This is not to be directly obstructed. But I should now mention, as we grow, it is embedded in our strategic plan that we not only increase the academic faculty community, but also diversify the faculty community. Indeed, if you examine our hiring of new tenure track faculty in the last 5 years, we have increased the diversity of our university by orders of magnitude. In fall 2018, SDSU had only 79 Latinx tenure track faculty across all its departments, including librarians and counselors. Today, spring of 2023, we have 118, an increase of 39 faculty members or a 49% increase in Hispanic faculty. In fall 2018, SDSU had only 29 Black tenure track faculty, including librarians and counselors. Today, we have 45, an increase of 55%. Our strategic priorities and our commitment remain focused, and we will only accelerate the investment in our foundational core, our faculty. We will also continue to pursue opportunities and smart investments that generate steady long-term revenues to support our strategic priorities and better insulate us from the system and state-level economic volatility. SDSU Mission Valley is a perfect example. The Innovation District furthers our pursuit of R1 classification. Meanwhile, the structure of our financing and the focus on public-private partnership in Mission Valley mitigates the short-term financial impact, while future revenues from land leases dramatically increases the future funding to our university. Independent of the system, we must understand the importance of these projects. The incremental growth in tuition and fee revenue from the steady increase in enrollment capacity is also an important factor when we think that with Mission Valley, the promise is to grow to by 50,000 students in the next 30 years. This is our reality today. As public funding continues to decline and trends in enrollment continue to shift for universities, this is a new balance that higher education must find, and the way universities like ours will be able to thrive for students, faculty, and staff. I also would like to now shift to some of our achievements. Each year, I talk about the strength of our faculty, the contributions of our staff, and success of our students, how our university is an outstanding academic and scholarly institution. But this academic year has been especially outstanding, absolutely remarkable in terms of record-breaking achievements, new awards, and many firsts for our campus community. And we are making new facility and infrastructure investments on top of all that. When it comes to our academic research rigor, we are the most diverse research university in California, with both National Science Foundation funded and National Academic of Science faculty on the leading edge of their fields. Our NSF Career Awards, which are nationally competitive awards, are on the rise, with 29 of our faculty having received the award. To be clear, in just the last years, SDSU faculty have received half of all NSF Career Awards that SDSU faculty have ever received since the program began in 1995. We hit a record for the university in terms of total research dollars and total research expenditures, with 760 individual federal grants awarded to SDSU faculty in 2022, totaling more than $164.5 million. I can tell you we are on track to beat the record yet again this year. Our developments at SDSU Mission Valley and SDSU Imperial Valley continue to be on track. At SDSU Mission Valley, we are making excellent progress. We opened the Snapdragon Stadium in September 2022. We have successfully selected development partners for phase 1 projects, including Avalon Bay for residential and retail development, Chelsea Investment Corporation for affordable housing, and LPC West for Innovation District. I cannot overstate the importance of affordable housing for our community. I'm incredibly proud to be building this with a key deliverable. We continue to invest in facilities at SDSU, including renovation of the Main Stage Theater and KPBS, a longstanding beacon for free reporting and the press. And we've been making widespread improvements to our electrical infrastructure. And today, I'm exceptionally pleased to share that after years of advocacy to the state and system, we are now finally approved to move forward with the design of the North Life Science Replacement Building. This has been a top priority given the large number of courses taught and student contact hours at North Life Science. What this means is that throughout fall and spring of next year, faculty in North and South Life Science buildings, along with all impacted departments, will be involved in formal planning and design conversation. And for those who remember, this has been a 5-year journey that was introduced to me. We were in the middle of the pack for many years. So this is a very huge opportunity for us to address a major faculty concern. In parallel with this exciting expansion, as part of the first phase of the LPC West Innovation District build out, we will have 30,000 new square feet of SDSU academic space for the life sciences, which will further help many of our most research active and space constrained departments. This will also be a part of the faculty and department led conversations and design planning to be started next year. I also wanted to share some other good news. Over the last year, our re-enrollment initiative has reached out individually to hundreds of SDSU students who had 15 units or fewer left to graduate, but dropped out in the wake of COVID. Through careful one-on-one advising and campus-wide collaboration, well over 100 have returned and are projected to receive their diplomas this month. More than half of these students will be the first in their families to graduate from college. Of course, I must also mention the first time in university history, and for any Mountain West Conference team, our men's basketball team reached the Elite Eight, Final Four in the championship game. We've never seen the entire region and state and nation wrap its arms around our community in ways we saw throughout March and April. And this is ongoing. Everywhere we went, we heard people celebrating our team and our university, including internationally. The state legislature is celebrating us next month. We received recognition and celebration on the floor of the United States Senate, and buildings across the world were lit up in red. What is important for us to know and to understand is that while the attention was heavily focused on men's basketball team, Coach Dutcher, J.D. Wicker, and our athletics program, and their amazing successes, people also wanted to know about us and our university. We've enjoyed record levels of media coverage and social media impressions among individuals wanting to know more about us. Along with athletics, we are seeing elevated interest in our academic program offerings, the student experience we provide, and our research. Our estimates indicate that if we paid out of pocket to receive the level of worldwide media coverage we received, spanning 4 weeks, right before and after the national championship game, it would have cost us more than $400 million. Now our student yield is up, demand is up, and interest in supporting SDSU philanthropically remains strong. We're only beginning to see the benefits of this achievement, and the benefits will be felt across the university for years to come. When we look at our research growth trajectory, we are strongly positioned to reach the R1 status. However, I also want to remind us all that this process of obtaining this designation does not stop with meeting these Carnegie metrics. So I just want to take a pause here, because this is something that is an ongoing effort and is clearly linked to our faculty and reaching our faculty goals. It requires then our academic institutions continuously to strive to maintain these standards. And of course, we have to really focus on not just replacement of faculty or existing faculty, but net new faculty. It remains notable that with the R2 classification, we have already landed in the top 8% of all research activity nationally, thanks to the dedication of our research and scholarship community. And we have long advocated for independent doctorates. This spring, we were grateful that Governor Newsom signed into law SB 684, permitting our university, along with other CSU campuses, the ability to offer independent doctors of public health, the DRPH program. I want to thank all the faculty involved in the School of Public Health that worked diligently in order for us to meet this goal. I also had the incredible opportunity to testify last week during the Assembly Higher Education Committee about Assembly Bill 656. This is something I promised the SDSU committee when I first came as president. It changes the California law to let SDSU and other CSUs to offer independent doctorate programs. This will be one of the most pivotal pieces of legislation since the California Master Plan was signed into law decades ago. And I might say what was so fabulous about that was all the assembly members who were present were unanimous in support of AB 656. And UC was neutral, which was also fabulous. So I'm pleased to share the results of what occurred here and look forward to the opportunity for Governor Newsom to reach this on the desk. And I also want to thank Nola Butler-Bird, because she also brought that to the system-wide academic senate to also support this particular initiative. I also am excited to share that 1 year ago, we launched the 6 big ideas following a year-long process with our faculty. They identified 6 research projects to address societal problems, issues of homelessness, climate, and justice. In just 12 months, these teams have been awarded more than $30 million in federal and philanthropic funding. Marina Kalias Anaya and the rest of the Aztec team is leading the university's first ever grant from DARPA to extract rare earth elements using genetically modified methane-eating bacteria. Rebecca Lewison received $10 million from EPA to start a new Center for Community Energy and Environmental Justice, making SDSU a leader in inclusive sustainability efforts, not just in San Diego or California, but across the larger Western United States, including Guam and American Samoa. Bruce Appleyard will lead another $10 million new center on transportation safety with a focus on protecting bicyclists and pedestrians as the most vulnerable users of road infrastructure. Beth Pollard and Pamela Jackson have received funding from the National Endowment for the Humanities and Institute of Museum and Library Studies to bolster comics and social justice education at SDSU. This builds on top of the fact that nearly every year of the past several years, we've broken new records in SDSU research funding. As we're achieving the highest level of student success in the history of our institution while minimizing achievement gaps, we welcomed our largest class of first-year students last fall at a time when some of our peer institutions are struggling to maintain enrollment. And we were all thrilled when Sandy McKinney was named the university's first ever Truman Scholar and the first in the CSU system in 17 years. This highly competitive scholarship goes to the best of the nation's best students. As I shared, we were leading the way in the CSU, and compared with many institutions nationwide, we are reducing achievement gaps among our students. We are affecting enrollment in a positive way and impacting graduation rates. We are proactively and intentionally making real progress across our Native, Indigenous, Black, and Hispanic student populations. And our 6-year graduation rates are above 71%. These rates not only far exceed national averages for these groups of students, but also exceed the national average for all students collectively. All of this is reflective of our path towards a Research 1. In closing, I want to thank all of you for actively supporting our students, parents, and families as we prepare to graduate more than 11,600 students. What an accomplishment for them and for us. And again, we have important work ahead. So thank you.
Thank you very much, President Delatorre. There are a couple of hands raised for questions. First, Senator Pomerenko, you're recognized.
Yes, thank you. I want to return to the first topic you discussed, President Delatorre, and I'd like to thank you for your longstanding commitment to improving tenure density. And I'd like to thank you for recognizing the proposal that the Senate passed unanimously and recognizing the merit of that proposal. And I'd also like to thank you for bringing to our attention that the information that not all MPP positions are subject to the approval of the president and the control of the president. And so my question for you is, in light of your commitment to improving tenure density, and in light of your support for our proposal to improve tenure density, are you prepared to commit that every MPP proposal that is subject to presidential approval will be subject to that proposal, i.e., it will not move forward if we have not improved tenure density in the past year?
So a signature does not make the legal issues surrounding such a policy go away. And I would like to right now defer to Jessica Rento, because she can provide the context of the Chancellor's Office advice on against signing a policy such as this. So Jessica, can you please provide context?
Absolutely. So to provide the context, so there's two different things at play. The first is when we look at the job duties of a position, if that position is doing certain things, under the Higher Education Employer-Employee Relations Act, if it's defined as management duties, we are required to classify it as a manager. What the president was referring to with respect to her review is any new management positions moving forward once HR determines that they are in fact manager positions under HERA. The president is looking at those to determine whether there is a need for those position, and making a determination then. If she's determining that there's not the need for that position, then of course she doesn't provide approval. But if she doesn't, there's not certain positions where there's discretion as to whether elevating them to MPP, it has to meet the elements under HERA.
Thank you. The next question, Inika?
I'm sorry, I just keep going back to my original question that I posed a few months ago, I believe. And that is, so we have heard quite a lot of information about Mission Valley campus. I'd like to know how the IVC campus is doing. And I'd like to know what partnerships and what, business versus with academia partnerships have been formed so far. And I kind of posed this question a few months ago, but I've never gotten a report on that. So maybe if we could do that in the fall, that would be really, I think, informative to all of us to see how our different other campuses do. And we hear about Mission Valley, that's great. But I want to know about IVC as well. Thank you.
I would be happy to do that and prepare a report. I think there is a lot of interesting information coming forward. Interestingly enough, I was in DC and ECO with the Department of Energy, and there was tremendous interest, particularly in the Brawley campus in the Lithium Valley.
Okay.
And indeed, yesterday we had staff meet with faculty over with Congressman Reese. The Lithium Valley project in particular has great interest from the federal government, and in particular our intersection with the workforce piece in the Imperial Valley and growing that area. So there's quite a lot there.
Okay.
And I actually think it would be
Sounds good.
fabulous opportunity. So thank you for that invitation.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Incoming Senator Herman, you'll need to have someone yield the floor to you
I
again.
yield.
Okay, thank you. You're recognized, Senator Herman.
Thank you, Andre. President De La Torre, I'm looking at the slide that the AUP gave us the other day. And over the last several years, the percentages of tenure track and ladder faculty and part-time faculty have gone in the opposite direction. So as the number of, what do we have here? Part-time people have risen, the number of full-time people have declined significantly. At the same time, while we are talking about administrators and MPPs, we need to be slightly more precise. Over the last 10 years, the number of high-level administrators, Admin 3 and Admin 4, has actually risen by approximately 30%. So, 2 points or 2 questions. One, what are you going to do to reverse these trends? When are we going to see the number of part-timers declining and the number of tenure track and tenured faculty rising? And the second question is, would you please send to the Senate the reports by Maximus Education, NACUBA, and the third consultant about R1 issues?
So let me just start with the first one. So Peter, one of the issues with the report, and I did not see the full text of the report, to be very honest, is that if you look at tenure density and calculations, it really does vary whether you use if you're using just head count, or in some instances, if you are not weighting by teaching, or whether you're using FTES. So you're going to get variations in the data in the particular reports. So I think we have to be really clear. I was trying to make the case, obviously, that the AAUP data was more apples to apples because they were controlling for the number of teachers. So what happens, or teaching load. So I think that's important to understand. So part of it is, and this is where I think when we do the reporting part that I think is important on an annual basis, Peter, is really to understand the metrics we're going to use, because the metrics that we report through the CSU requirement of tenure density is not the same as the AAUP, or particularly that report as well. So that's something we need to do. But nevertheless, I completely concur on the commitment. And that's why, as I said, I am committing an additional net new growth. So I think that's point one. On the second issue on administration and ministers, I believe that was the second one. I'm going to ask Tom Harple or Jessica on that data set on administrators. Can one of you handle that? Because you've been tracking that data. Jessica or Tom?
Sure. So I don't have the data going back 10 years in front of me, but I do have the data over the last 2 years, and the majority of new MPP positions have actually been at the admin 1 and admin 2 level. Out of 49 MPP positions, 44 of them were admin 1, admin 2, with just 5 at that higher admin level. The lower level is they're the managers, they're the department directors, and they're the bulk of the highest percentage of our MPPs are in those 2 classifications, with the highest level being in the admin 1 level.
If I can clarify, I use data from, an article that I wrote 10 years ago, hard to believe it was in 2013, but there it is. And I compared that with data that I got from Transparent California. I think that was the place. So, and I just totaled up the number of admin 3, admin 4, and about a 30% difference. So while I'm not concerned with admin 1, admin 2, the number of admin 3 has grown significantly. And it seems to be going as upper administration goes up, tenure track goes down.
I think, Peter, always be careful. Correlation is not causation.
Oh, I don't think that they're causing, but I'm saying these are trend lines that need to be noticed and reversed.
You know, I also think that that's an empirical question, but I appreciate the comment. Thank you, Peter. The next question by Scott Kelly.
Can we hold 1 second for the next question?
Oh, I'm sorry.
We're falling behind with our elections, and I know that Chair Marks has the result of the last election. If he could go ahead and announce that, and then we'll go back to the next question.
Thank you, Chair Butler-Byrd. I appreciate that. And thank you, everyone, for your patience while I just sort of interject in this important conversation. So the elections are in, and let me be the first to congratulate Amanda Fuller for being reelected to the Secretary of the Senate. There were 67 votes cast. Amanda Fuller received 43. Pat Walls received 24.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Do we have time? Do we want to try to run the treasurer election, or do we want to
Yes,
delay
we
that
can.
to?
I think we should try to go ahead and do the treasurer.
Okay, if everyone can bear with me for 1 minute, I will. I'd like to run that election as well. President Delatorre, thank you for your patience. Just for 1 minute here while we run it. Okay. I will put that in the chat right now. The results are in the chat, Amanda. Okay, so as again, the same procedures as all of the other elections. This one is an election for Senate Treasurer. Before we run this election, I just wanted to make a call from the floor for any floor nominations. And I see 2 hands up. I think Scott, your hand was up first. No.
Oh, his
Sorry,
hand was
that
up
was
first.
for a question for the president. I apologize.
We'll
Oh,
come
okay.
back to you for that, Scott.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Then I think Senator Walls, you have a question, or
I'd like to self-nominate for treasurer.
Okay,
And I put something in the chat earlier.
okay. All right. So CCE recognizes that Senator Walls will nominate himself for Senate treasurer. Okay. Do we have any other nominations from the floor? I don't see any. Okay. All right. We will get the ballot and we will be sending that out to you shortly, everyone. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. So now we'll go back to the last question. Senator Kelly, you're recognized.
Yeah, thank you. So I want to just thank the president, first of all, for standing up for tenure, which is under, as everyone knows here, under incredible attack across the country. We talk about academic freedom a lot at this faculty senate, but there's no greater danger to academic freedom than the loss of tenure, because then you can be fired at will by people who just don't like you or what you have to say. And is especially protective of minority faculty and women and other people and anyone who speaks out against authority. So I really appreciate you saying that. It's the first thing authoritarian governments do. One of the first things they do is get rid of all tenure protections and even fire large numbers of faculty. So thank you for standing up for that, and we all should stand up for that. But I do have one question. I appreciate your fight for more tenure track faculty, and I'm glad to hear numbers are going in the right direction, if given your numbers. But one of the things that we're really having trouble with as we move to R1 is the staff issues. And I brought this up many times, and we have still a serious staff shortage in our entire college. And the staff are really, as you know, they're poorly paid. It's very difficult to hire them. And I really want to see, as we hire more, that we bring the staff along, because if we're going to R1, right now it's almost impossible to order things. It's really getting trouble I'm having a heck of a time even getting graduate students. I got 3 graduate students. I normally get 10 by now for my master's program. We're not going to have enough people to, and the young faculty I'm especially worried about are struggling to get anything done. And I think they're going to leave. And so, this is really, I hope there's a formula. We have so few staff, and these poor staff members are literally in physical pain. They're actually getting close to hospitalization because of the amount of stress they're under. So can you address the staffing issue relative to the tenure?
So Scott, one thing we will have with the new residence fee is 45 new staff positions, but I'm very committed to that. I think all the presidents are. Right now, as you are probably aware, we're under a collective bargaining process right now with CSUEU, which is a very important process. There's also the Mercer study that has also been completed. Again, I agree with you. This is a major issue. Compensation, in my mind, for faculty and staff is a major issue. And we have been really, I think, all of us collectively trying to work with our electeds. And I know NOLA has been involved. I know CFA is very involved to really address this issue. But I am very committed to that. And that is one area that I do agree with you. We need to focus on. Now, we are going to probably see in May, and this is where where the board stands, because I think universally we're going to have to find a funding source. So that's really at the heart of the issue. I think everybody agrees. Everybody, that's not what you're saying is absolutely true. We're, and even when we look at when we're trying to hire some people, I'll give you an example in IT, we have such high vacancy rates. Why? Well, our salaries aren't competitive. Our salaries, we may not be as flexible. So there are a lot of things there. So, I will work with, staff, with the faculty, with the Senate on this, and particularly in working with the electeds, because this is not, particularly as you can see nationwide, this has been a major issue across higher education. So yeah, no, you're right. I'm willing to work with you on that and see what we can do. And again, how we can carve out that funding to provide that support is critical. So I will work with everybody on that. Thank you. Thank you for that point. It's really an important point. Thank you.
Thank you. I have with me Gina Jacobs, Associate Vice President for Mission Valley, as well as Agnes Wong Nicholson, Vice President for Business and Financial Affairs, and we'll be presenting together. I think, Gina, you're sharing and you're starting, actually.
True. Thank you. Thanks so much for having us today. Happy to bring you an update on all the progress we've been making at SDSU Mission Valley. So just a quick overview of the things I'm going to share with you today. A quick construction update on where we're at with the site improvements. Update on the developers that have been selected for 3 different projects on the site, and then wanted to share with you some news that we just published this week, that both the stadium has been certified as LEED Gold, and the site itself has been certified LEED Neighborhood Development at the silver level. So both of those certifications came in from LEED this in the past week, and we shared that news publicly. So I wanted to make sure that you were aware as well. So here is an overview of the site as of the end of April. You can see the progress being made on the park, and all of that park space is still on track for completion towards the end of this year. And then, of course, the stadium is there and completed in terms of construction. You can see over on this right side of the screen a few snapshots of things that are taking place in terms of construction activities within the park, including a shade structure in the trolley plaza, some children's play equipment that will be installed underneath the trolley viaduct in the ribbon of shade, and some additional children's play equipment as well. The park itself, we've highlighted in the past, but just wanted to update you. It is continuing to be consistent with what we've been talking about. More than 80 acres of open space across the site, 34 acres along the San Diego River. We've been working really closely with the Kumeyaay tribes here in San Diego to develop some educational opportunities that both recognize and celebrate the Kumeyaay people and the origins along the San Diego River, as well as additional educational opportunities in terms of interpretive signage related to the biology of the river and other pieces and history of the site itself. So we are working on that, and all of those opportunities are going to be completed construction by the end of this year, including planting more than 1,000 trees across the site, many of which you've probably seen if you've been out there, but there will be many more planted in the park area. This is a quick site overview, including the locations of the first of each of the 3 projects that we are going to discuss today. So the first residential and retail project, the first affordable housing project, and then the first innovation district project. And with that, I think I'm going to turn it over to Agnes to highlight each of the first residential projects.
I don't see Agnes on, Gina.
Yes, I'm here.
Oh, okay. Here you go.
Okay, good afternoon. Thanks for having us to give you an update. So we have been making really great progress in terms of selecting developers. So Mission Valley is a 10 to 15 years development. And we are now in the middle of a phase 1 project. So phase 1 includes our first 600 units of market rate residential unit. As you can see the pictures here, these are some of the renderings. Avalon Bay has been selected as our partner. Avalon Bay is a large public real estate investment trust. And now we're in the process of negotiating the ground lease with them. And so the way it works is SDSU will ground lease the land to Avalon Bay, and we will collect ground lease revenue every year. Plus other fees like development impact fee and things like that. And then we will use the fee to make our debt service payments because we took out financing to purchase the land. Avalon Bay will design and finance, construct and operate the apartments. So they will take all the financing, construction and operating risk. So 600 units, all market rate, and they have studios, 1 bedroom to 3 bedrooms, the type of apartment. And this is a $340 million project, all financed by Avalon Bay. This residential development includes 30,000 square feet of retail, including a grocery store. And Aztec Shops will be responsible for leasing all the retail space. This project also have 1,000 parking spaces, and is targeted to be LEED Gold, also with public arts in it. In terms of timeline, right now, as I mentioned, we're negotiating a ground lease agreement with the developer. We are planning to, our goal is go to the Board of Trustee at the end of this year to get an approval for the project. And so that we can start construction in 2024. And we're planning occupancy in 2026. Next slide, please. And another project that we're really excited about is this phase one also include a affordable housing building. And actually we break the affordable housing into 2 different phases on this particular parcel. And we have selected Chelsea as our developer. Chelsea, you probably have read about them. They're doing a lot of affordable housing projects in San Diego. So it's a really good partner to have. And again, they will be responsible for all the financing, construction, and operation of the facility. And San Diego State will also collect a ground lease revenue, from, well, actually, we'll collect the infrastructure fee, and then we will have a revenue share on their residual cash in the future. And again, this is a 186 unit. Again, it has studios to 3-bedroom type of apartment, and is targeted for family making average medium income at 50% of San Diego level. And it also includes a community serving child care center that can accommodate 70 students. Similarly, in terms of timeline, our goal and plan is to go to the board at the end of this year and to get their approval. And construction will start, we expecting around 2025, because for affordable housing, it takes them a while to get the right kind of financing, to put the financing package together. And we hope that it will complete by 2027 for occupancy.
Okay.
Another piece, yep, you want to cover this one or you want me to?
No, you can do that and I'll do.
Okay, so we have also selected a partner for the Innovation District, and then Hala will talk more about from the programmatic side. So the partner is LPC West, and this phase one will include 3 buildings, approximately 315,000 square feet of office, research labs, incubators, and accelerator space. SDSU plans to occupy up to 50,000 square feet for the research purpose, as well as the accelerator space that Hala can talk more about later. It will also have a structured parking facility included in this phase. Our plan is to go to the Board of Trustees either end of 2023 or early part of 2024. Construction starting, we expect late 2024 or even beginning of 2025. And then again, estimated occupancy 2027-ish. Okay, so now I'm going to turn it over to Hala to talk about the programmatic side.
Thank you, Agnes and Gina. So just a reminder to everybody from our last meeting, like what is the goal of the Innovation District? So really accelerate our research and innovation and really impact the workforce development of the region. So these are opportunities for us to collaborate with our partners in the region, whether they're industry, community-based organization, clinical settings, any of those partners that all of us have had for many years in the community, with our faculty, and then work with them on providing them the diverse pipeline of students that they would like. As well as, Agnes mentioned the importance or mentioned the accelerator, but broadly, the importance of entrepreneurship to the heart of the Innovation District is really crucial. And so the entrepreneurship ecosystem will serve the entire region and will work to enhance the economic development of San Diego through a variety of programmatic pieces that include the incubation and acceleration, but also becoming the home for the entrepreneurship ecosystem in the region. And I want to emphasize that, if you don't know this already, but our incubator, the Zip Launchpad, has been named the best university incubator in the country. And it really got this award for not only the spin-off out of this Zip Launchpad of our the companies from students and faculty, but more importantly for its diverse student spin-offs. So we really have targeted programs on women entrepreneurs and underrepresented minority entrepreneurs. And that makes us unique also on the national level. Next slide. You've seen this slide many times from me, but it's a reminder that we have with the work we've done with the campus community, a review of federal government agency funding, our industry partner, our community partners, our innovation district board, our faculty, our students have been spent over 18 months developing this model that really focuses on 6 areas of focus for the university in terms of its research scholarship and creative activities. I'll start from cyber and digital technologies as one of the hubs that we would have on site. Health and education innovation. You can read them. I don't have to read them, but you can see how they span a variety of our, the majority of our campus academic programming and research programs. And at the heart of that are 3 items that I think I want to highlight besides the area is one is our global future, social justice and innovation. This is our ability to not only do research and creative activity and scholarship, but this is the ethos of our campus to ensure that the work we do really addresses issues of social justice and innovation. And so we have partners with us that really work not just with the independently as community-based organization to do with this work, but work closely with our academic partners and our academic faculty to really advance the area of social justice and innovation. And then the second one is our goal is to have a lab school that helps train the future students that come to SDSU and other campuses through the transdisciplinary lens that you see through these hubs. And emphasizing that you see all of our hubs overlap, and that's largely because we do not believe that they're independent, they're focus areas, but you can imagine how media and entertainment is very much impacted by digital technologies. And so the idea is that this is all areas of focus that may coexist as well to advance innovation in the region. Next slide. And just a reminder of the 4 partners who have committed for phase 1. There are more that we talk to people all the time, companies, community-based organization partners who may want to coexist. But for right now, the ones that have been meeting with our with LPC West and us have been Quidel Ortho. It's a diagnostic company that really was the heart of our COVID response, both for our students, our athletics, our community work. It's been a wonderful partner, and they're working with our faculty across the College of Sciences as well on more basic science. Our Naval Health Research Center that's located in Point Loma does a lot of work on infectious diseases. And then the Family Health Centers of San Diego, which is community federally qualified health centers, and have really about 20 years of research work with our faculty. And so combining that for the first phase of health innovation alongside some of our faculty that will join in that 50,000 square feet that Agnes mentioned. Next, and that's it. So Nola, I don't know if you want us to take questions or
yes,
how to
we will
proceed.
open the floor for some questions, and I do see a couple of hands up. The first one is Senator Camper, you're recognized.
Thank you all for that presentation. My question is specifically for you, VP Wong Nickerson. I've heard the reports because I've been on SCC and I appreciate it, but I feel like this is the first time I've heard who the partner is for the affordable housing. And I'm just curious if there's any way that we can negotiate with them some portion of that housing for faculty. I mean, obviously it's so obvious how crucial that is for faculty retention and faculty recruitment. So now that we have a partner, is there any potential prospect for that?
Yeah, so thank you for the question. It's a very good one. Definitely, housing cost is a concern, that we all have experienced in San Diego. So the affordable housing, actually, because of the funding model that they have, they rely heavily on state or federal different kind of tax credit programs. So they have very strict rules, like in terms of eligibility, and we have to follow, actually the developer has to follow those rules. But we are, working with them and trying to understand, who are eligible to apply for these affordable housing unit. And, and we're trying to figure out how we can, at minimum, right, when those units become available, that will make sure that the campus community is aware of them. So more detail will come in terms of, who's eligible and how can we have, tap into that resource. When we have more information, we definitely will bring back and share with this group.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
Thank you. Chair Lack, you're recognized.
Thank you. I have a follow-up question. What percentage of housing will you commit to putting aside affordable housing for our faculty, staff, and students? I thought the original plan was to have a percentage that was set aside specifically for our community. And I vaguely recall hearing at the SEC meeting when you presented this several months ago that was no longer on the table. So it's not just about eligibility, but actually setting aside units for our community who can't actually afford to live and work in this town.
Right. So again, because of the very strict rules related to affordable housing in terms of eligibility, so something that we need to work with the developers to understand that better. So it's not really, so San Diego State doesn't have the authority to say, well, X% of those housing will come to our faculty or staff. We have to work with the developer to follow, the rules. However, meanwhile, having said that, we actually have a separate program that have always been in the work that we especially recognize that for new faculty coming to San Diego, especially from different locations, this is very expensive city to live in. So we have a plan actually as a recruiting tool to have a program that will help our new incoming faculty in the future, that will be able to subsidize some of their rent and make it below market as a way to help them transition into, the San Diego State. So that's a program that we have control over, something that we are planning to do.
Okay, thank you. Senator Lang, you're recognized.
Excuse me, thank you. When South Campus Plaza was built and the first floor ended up having many liquor licenses and several issues around it, the AOD task force that our president instituted made a recommendation that before Mission Valley starts leasing, learnings from South Campus Plaza and others will be taken into consideration. Has there been any consideration around the liquor licenses that will be there, their density, the rules around the property as a whole, whether or not there can be open containers carried? We know that Snapdragon has a lot of alcohol service areas. And we know that alcohol density correlates with student problems with alcohol. And it's a concern of mine. I'm wondering how you've been addressing that.
Yeah, thanks for your comments. So we have not actually talked about at this specific operational level details yet. So thanks for your input, and we will definitely take that into consideration. So the good news is all the retail leasing will be done through Aztec shops. So we do have ability to shape our policy and to determine, what type of business we want to bring in or not. So that's something, we still have time to work on it, right? So the occupancy won't take place until 2026. So we have time, between now and then to develop this type of policy and an approach.
Thank you, Senator Lang. Senator Johnson, you're recognized.
Yeah, I have two questions about the lab school. First, is there a timeline when that's expected to, construction is expected to start and then be completed? And then second, what's the mechanism for faculty who are interested in having a voice in that school to contribute? I know I have colleagues in the College of Education who are interested, and I'm sure there are colleagues in other schools too.
Yeah, great question. So the lab school is in, and I apologize, I'm at the airport about to board, so if it's loud behind me, I'm so sorry. So the lab school is intended to be a later phase because what we've heard from parents and community, they don't want to be on a site that's full construction mode. We still are doing housing, we're still doing buildings. So it would be in a later stage. I don't know that we have an exact timeline yet, but certainly, of course, of College of Education would be the primary place where we reach out for input on what this looks like, because it's supposed to be a lab school that is really supported by the College of Education. So as we get closer to that model, we'll engage all of you, but it's going to take a little bit of time. Phase 1 is not due till 26, and I anticipate that some of these things that we talked about are closer to 2020, the 2030, 2033, which is the end, the anticipated end of the project. So we have a little bit of a time certainly on that, but we'll engage, of course, all of our colleagues in the College of Education.
Okay, thank you. Senator Brandon, you're recognized. You're muted.
Sorry, thanks, Nola. So I just have a question. I heard, was really excited to hear about the child care and the number of students, but you mentioned that a park was being built. And my question is, will that park be accessible to students with physical disabilities?
Yeah, yes, it will be accessible, and it's being designed to be able to be accessible to the entire community.
Thank you.
Thank you. Senator Sherman, you're recognized.
Thank you, Chair Butler-Byrd. So just to make sure I understand, and I have a question. It was like 600 units at market rate, which will be for higher income folks, I assume, because cost of living here is high. And then 186 units for median income folks. So a little less than 25% of the housing's for median income. The rest is for high income. And so I'm wondering if, I guess there's none for low income folks. And I thought when this was on the ballot years ago that SDSU, part of the reason they wanted to do the Mission Valley project was for the community and the whole community, right? Not just some of us, high income, median income folks. And because of housing discrimination and lending discrimination and racial bias within that, a lot of marginalized people and faculty of color and others really struggle to find housing. And I know of someone right now who might lose their job because of this, because they can't find housing in San Diego. So and the program for new faculty, that's great, but it doesn't help our current faculty, many of whom are really suffering. And so my question is, has in all this innovation and move to become more sustainable, is SDSU looking into policies or planning so that this is also a project for low income folks as well? Especially housing. I know that was wordy, sorry, thank you.
No, that's okay, thanks for the comments. So actually, let me clarify the affordable housing unit, the 186, right, is phase 1. And it's actually for a low income family that are making, their income is at the 50% of the average medium income level in San Diego. So it's not the medium income, it's at 50% of the average medium income.
Thank you. I totally missed that really important part.
Okay. All right.
Thank you. Senator Henschel, you're recognized.
Thank you, Chair Butler-Byrd. Real quick question related to the parking associated with those 186 lower income residential units. If I read the slide correctly, it was going to be capped at no more than 0.61 parking spaces per unit. And with some of those units being 2, 3, and 4 bedroom units, I just wondered where that number of 0.61 parking spaces came from. Is that a standard for a development of this type? Is it an effort to strongly encourage public transportation, or just what's involved with that number? Thank you.
I'm happy to take that one. In our EIR, we committed to having a certain threshold for residential parking, in part because it is at a transit stop. And so there is a reduced, we're trying to incentivize a reduced reliance on vehicles. So the that number is based on what the developer believes is going to will help make both be necessary for the development, but also incentivize folks to utilize that trolley station and the additional transit opportunities that will be coming to the site in the future.
Okay, thank you. Senator Barboni, you're recognized.
Thanks. I was going to ask about parking also, but now I can refine the question. That ratio given for the more affordable units seems to be kind of lower than the ratio used for the other units. For the other units, there was more than 1 parking space per unit. And if the idea is get people to encourage people to use public transit, why are the housing units far, relatively, from the trolley station? It looks like there's kind of a chunk of space between the trolley and where you're going to put these places. So why not put them closer to the trolley?
So behind me, I will try not to Vanna White this too much, but behind me, you will see basically everything on this side. That is the future residential development. And all of these parcels will be developed for residential. So we're starting here in mostly because it helps with the infrastructure as it's built out towards the trolley plaza. But basically all of the residential is within a half mile of a walk to the transit station and qualifies as a transit oriented development. And you're right about the ratio of parking spaces depending on the type of housing, and that has to do with the type of housing that is being built and the demand for parking for each of those different types. And those numbers are not numbers we prescribe; those are numbers that the developers are supportive of and believe are necessary to support the developments.
And who's calling the shot, us or the developers?
Again, the developers are taking all of the financing and operational risk on all of the development. And so they have to build certain things in to make sure that those developments are going to be successful.
Okay, thank you. Senator Quick, you're recognized.
Thank you. Thank you for this update. My question is about the conceptual draft for the Innovation District. I'm wondering how, aside from media and entertainment, how the creative activities are represented in the conceptual draft. So that's my first question. And then the second part of my question is, are there faculty included on the team working to help shape how those of us whose professional practice falls under creative activity, are they included in this conversation about the conceptual draft for the Innovation District?
That's a great question. Yes, on multiple levels. So we have, there's multiple ways by which they are including, within the entire site. We have a public arts committee that's in charge of the public arts component of the district, and is comprised of our faculty, school directors, community members, and is providing input on that. In addition, the media and entertainment portfolio is a general one to encompass that, but it is intended to include everyone. And we've been engaging with all the colleges on a regular basis, as much as we can, obviously. But we've been engaging with the colleges. We are getting ideas from the colleges on what these things should look like. And we are using that input as we formulate it. I just want to remind everybody that our partners in the Mission Valley pay for their space. And so for us, it's also being, because this is developer built, right? It's technically our land, but it is their buildings. And when it's their buildings, they need to be able to actually have tenants. And so we work closely with them on developing those ideas as well as with our faculty. So the deans are informed constantly. We have meetings with the chairs where we update, and then we get input. So we have a number of faculty have engaged with our Director of Strategic Partnership, Natasha Bliss, who have met with a variety of their existing partners. But I've been saying this for almost 3 years. If you have ideas, come to us. Our team will engage with you. We'll hear your ideas. We'll work through it and see if these are doable in our site.
Thank you. Senator Hassan, you're recognized.
Thank you, Chair Bird. I have a couple of questions. The first one was, did we conduct any study of other Cal State schools that have housing for faculty? Because I used to teach at Cal Poly Pomona, and when I joined there, they gave me opportunity to purchase a house that was close to the campus, and it was at a reduced rate compared to the other housing that is available in the Claremont area. But the catch was that when I sell the house, I can't sell it at a premium. I have to sell it within the guidelines. So, I mean, one of the concerns, at least when we acquired the site, was making housing available for faculty and staff. And it seems to be lost in this current plan. Maybe I'm not fully understanding it. The second concern I have is, like, why did we choose 3 different developers for the different building? And it seems there'll be overlap in construction. Do we have a project management team that will be managing everything to ensure that SDSU is not liable in the end for something in the common areas, and who's responsible for what? It just seems a little bit of a bigger risk than having one developer do it. So could you please expand on those things?
Sure, happy to. So first, addressing about faculty and staff housing, Mission Valley is not the only option, right? So you're correct that there are actually conversations going on within the CSU system now to try to figure out, because there are different programs. For example, UC have this very low interest interest rate loan program for faculty. So something that, for CSU to consider. We also actually have a very small number of houses that actually owned by Aztec shops that currently are leased to faculty at below market rate. And we're trying to see if we can expand something like that in the future. So there are definitely, different approach to address the, high housing cost problem that we have in San Diego. I haven't talked to Pomona about their program. I'm definitely, now I know about it. I'm definitely will reach out and see how they, able to, try to learn something from them as well. In terms of having 3 different developers, actually, these are all very different, specialized type of development. For example, even housing, affordable housing developer is very, very different from a market rate housing developer, because the funding model is different. The type of operation is very different. So it's actually makes sense to hire, really developers are specialized in that area. Same as Innovation District, that was actually totally developer that specialized in, building labs and life science type of a building. And they have experience in doing that, which is also very different from residential. So I hope that answered your question.
Yeah, thank you. Just a quick follow-up. Is there any particular reason why we decided not to have faculty housing in the Mission Valley campus? I know we have been talking about alternate opportunities, but this seems to be a missed opportunity for not creating housing for faculty and staff, especially affordable housing. And if our goal is to grow the faculty and attract talented faculty, one of the biggest barriers is the cost of living in San Diego, and we seem to have this opportunity, but we are not capitalizing on it, and it's difficult for me to understand why we missed this opportunity.
So actually, the Mission Valley For example, the market rate residential housing, when it's done, is open to everyone, including our faculty and staff, right? And that's why we have that program to help, subsidize, because the rate will be market rate. So that's why we have the new program that we're working on to help new incoming faculty. If they want to rent in Mission Valley, there's a program to help them to do that. Or if they don't want to live in Mission Valley, they can use the subsidy somewhere else as well. We don't want to dictate the location per se.
Thank you.
Thank you. Senator Sherman, looks like you're our last question.
Thank you, Chair. Just a quick one. AVP Wong Nickerson, you mentioned in sort of response to, well, what about faculty housing? And you mentioned that this kind of exists already on a small scale, albeit that SDSU does own some houses that faculty can live in at a lower cost. And I was just wondering, how do faculty access those resources?
So we started about 2-3 years ago. We actually worked through the dean's office to, as they recruited new faculty, we let them know that there are opportunities out there. So that's how because we only actually have 4 houses available, right? Owned by STech shops right now.
Okay.
So we work through the deans,
for new faculty only, not existing faculty. So part of the program you already mentioned.
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, everyone. And thank you, VP Maldonado, VP Wong Nickerson, and Gina Jacobs for your report. We will probably have asked you to come back for a follow-up soon. Thank you very much. Okay, so we will now move to item 5.6, our Associated Students Report. President Moore, you're recognized.
Hello, everyone. I am both honored and saddened to be giving my last report among the Senate, which leads me to my first update that tomorrow will be the transition from the 2022 to 2023 board to the 2023 to the 2024 board. So you will have new student senators on the Senate in the next meeting. And it has been an honor and a privilege to serve within this board. My next update is around triple or Aztec Achievement Awards. And that was a very great award. We were able to honor all students, well, not all, but a lot of students, faculty, and staff. And I did want to give a special shout out to one of our senators, Senator Sherman, who was able to receive a Presidential Leadership Award for all of her hard work that she does that does not go unnoticed. And I thought it was really important that she was able to receive that award. And my last, I guess, time here at Senate, I wanted to use it to speak of some words of our powerful and fierce chair. I've been able, since I've started this role as the president, coming in the summer of Chair Butler Bird reached out to me and wanted to continue the strong relationship that we had built as Associated Students with previous Chair Will Weston. And I think that we've grown phenomenally and just amazing. I've seen this woman work in tirelessly for not just students, but for shared governance and overall justice. I think one of the biggest things that we can all say in this room is that I've never seen a person stand up for what is right, no matter the consequences or the repercussions. And I think that that's something that, we as senators, and I'm glad that the new incoming senators are on this call today, to be able to understand that the newly elected chair, which is congratulations as well for serving in another term, but will be able to always put their faith that they are not being led by anyone that would not want to do the best for them, and that will stand up for justice no matter who, race, creed, denomination. Basically, it's all about just the betterment of us as a university, as a Senate, and overall upholding the principles of shared governance. So with that, I wanted to just thank you for all you have done for us, Dr. Byrd, and ultimately what you would do within this next position. And I would also like to yield a piece of my report to some senators to also give some words. And so first I'll pass it to David Camper.
Thank you, President Moore. And, as is customary, when presidents finish their term, thank you for all the great work you've done. And I'd like to also take the opportunity to thank NOLA, Chair Butler-Byrd, for her excellent leadership, most particularly for her patience and compassion. I think we all know how much it sucks to be on Zoom. We've all taught through it for a long time, and it is a incredibly difficult forum to handle students in a classroom, let alone as many academic experts as we all are in this space. And I really appreciate your ability to negotiate all of our perspectives and voices in a place of patience and compassion. So thank you very much for that, Chair Byrd.
I would also like to yield some time to Senator Kebelan as well.
Thank you, Senator Moore. So I've served on the University Senate for the last 6 years, and I swear it feels like it's been 12. But this is my last Senate meeting, and I'll try to contain my my sadness. But although I'm exiting the Senate, I did want to congratulate Chair Nola Butler-Byrd on her reelection and also acknowledge her outstanding leadership. So to you directly, Chair Butler-Byrd, you are a valued member of the Senate and the entire university community. It's been a pleasure, and I am proud to have worked with you on the Senate. I know of no one more dedicated and selfless as you are, both inside and outside of the Senate. You are an amazing advocate for students, staff, and faculty, and the Senate will continue to be in good hands under your leadership. So thank you, and goodbye, University Senate.
And so at the end of my report, I would just like to say thank you, Dr. Byrd, and I know and trust that you will continue to build relationships with our campus partners and act within integrity, morals, and ultimately lead us in the direction as a university we continue to need to go. So thank you so much.
Thank you so much. And thank you everybody for your kind words. I really appreciate it, and so does our whole team. Thank you very much. The Senate Vice Chair's report. Vice Chair Vasquez, you're recognized.
Thank you, Chair Butler-Byrd. Just making sure that folks can hear me in the room. So Mario, thank you for pulling this up. This is the updated referral chart. We added just a color legend up at the top just to help make things hopefully a little bit more easier to read. And so if there's any questions or any updates, please let me know.
Okay. Seeing no questions, we will move on to item 5.5, the Senate Treasurer Report. Treasurer Sharma, you're recognized. Oh, I do see one hand that just came up. Senator Walls, is that for something for the Treasurer's Report, or was that a mistake?
It was for the Treasurer's Report, but I'd like to hear from Treasurer Sharma first. Thank you.
All right, please go ahead, Treasurer Sharma.
Great. Thank you. Thank you. So you see here the expense report for the Senate here, and that's included all the amounts. I think we also submitted, I think that was discussed last time. No need to bring it up here. And we are still working on the information on the assigned time things. When that's ready, we can share. At this moment, we don't have all the information ready. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, now, Senator Walls, you're recognized.
Thank you. And thank you, Treasurer Sharma. So I've noticed that the Senate expenditures right now are $16,000 and change, and it's been the same report since our March meeting. And I see that the last update there was in late February. There's been no additional monies spent by the Senate and Senate Executive Committee.
That's exactly the case. We are doing meeting on virtual, so we don't have any other expenses. When something done, yeah, we will add it.
Okay, and so I see here like infra telecom recurring costs are monthly, but then they magically stop after October. Was that IT cost was no longer being charged?
I need to get clarification about it because last meeting we did not have. So how it came up, I can report next time.
Okay, and then the last question is on the assigned time audit. Who's working on that? Because that's been on the agenda since the September meeting.
So on that one, because I contacted the different deans and their office to know that when they received the assigned time, how they used it. So some colleges provided information, some college provided information is not very clear that I can include here until there is some vagueness. So that's some discussion needed. And once we have that clarity, we can include it.
Okay, and then I think I said last question, but I guess the real last question, then I'll stop asking is I remember in a previous meeting it was discussed about the movement from being under the provost budget to a separate Senate budget. Where does the Senate budget fall within the entire university structure? Is that are we hosted under the president's office? Or
Yes, we are. We're now
Okay.
under the president's office.
Perfect, thank you. I wasn't clear from the org chart because we are over here. So thank you so much.
Okay, thank you.
All right, we will move on to item 5.5, the provost report. Vice Provost Bill Tong will be presenting it in Provost Ochoa's absence. Welcome, Provost, Vice Provost Tong.
Thank you very much. The provost asked me to report a few items here. First, the RTP reviews. All 91 RTP reviews have been completed. Decision letters were sent to faculty on Friday, April 28th. The provost is grateful to all RTP committee members who review the files at all levels. And on the dean's reviews, the 5-year reviews for Dean Barry Chung and Dean Steve Hooker are in progress. The data collection processes, surveys, and interviews have been completed. The review panels for both deans are in the process of reviewing the data and formulating their report. For Dean Scott Walter, the review panel has been convened. They are in the process of getting ready to launch the survey for the library faculty and staff. On enrollment updates for summer 2023, as of today, we have 9,751 students enrolled in the summer sessions, and that's 4,022 FTES. So about 88% of our FTES target. So at this point, we're about over 350 FTE ahead in our summer enrollment for this upcoming summer in comparison to our last summer's enrollment at the same point of time. So AVP Hyman and I are meeting with the deans, associate deans, and selected chairs and directors to make sure we have all the sections needed for our student for summer and for fall. For fall 2023 registration, it started 2 weeks ago, and more than 20,000 continuing students are enrolled. We are currently at about 17,488 FTES. a lot higher than at the same time last year. So we will continue to monitor enrollment numbers throughout the summer and prior to the start of the fall semester, including the expected 10% or higher melt. So the admission intent for the freshman and transfer classes for 2023, our target enrollment for our incoming freshman class is 6,100, and we have right now 6,380 intent, and that's about 104.6% right now. For the transfer class, the target enrollment is 4,000. So we have 4,838 intents right now. So about 121% at this point. So May 1st, Monday was our enrollment deadline. And the admissions team will be working with the intent to enroll data throughout the week, this week and next week. We'll have a better picture of our intent later next week, and we'll have, if we have additional space for students on our wait list. And of course, we'll be watching the expected 10% melt before the start of the fall semester. For this year, tenure track faculty searches, the ones that are going on right now, for the fall 2023 start for new professors. Academic Affairs launch 61 faculty searches this academic year. As of this morning, we have successfully filled 45 searches. Currently, we have 3 letters out and 4 approval to negotiate forms are signed for the deans to negotiate with the top candidates. As you know, this year, we made things a little faster by approving the top 3 candidates per approval to negotiate form, so that search committees don't have to come back for approval to negotiate after each candidate. So they can go 3 candidates at a time. And if they have any additional candidates after the 3rd candidate, they can submit a new form. We still have about 5 tenure track searches that are at different stages of hiring and in the process of identifying the top candidates. We're expecting that they will all finish by the end of the spring semester. We have 4 unsuccessful searches this year, and we will relaunch them next year. And as of today, the following colleges have successfully completed all their searches: Business, Education, PSFA, and Imperial Valley. And finally, for next year's search, that is fall of 2024 start. As some of you know, we had a retreat on April 5th to discuss requests for searches for the upcoming cycle, and Senate officers and 1 senator from each college, deans and AVPs participated in this retreat, and each dean presented their faculty line requests and the shared governance process they use in each college to identify these faculty line requests. And then all participants have had an opportunity to ask the deans any questions about their lines, and then all participants voted, and we prioritized the faculty line requests. So at this time, the number of faculty allocation, this is still an estimate, right? We still don't know how many centrally funded lines will be. Right now, we have about 25, and then we have about 11 college-funded lines based on retirement, FERBs, and other requests we received so far. So we have among the 11 college-funded lines, one in each college, each of the following colleges. Arts and Letters, Business, Engineering, PSFA, Imperial Valley, and Library all have one. HHS has 2, and Sciences have 3, and those numbers could change as we receive more retirement and FERC requests later. And of course, we'll be monitoring them. And the provost and the vice provost will review these requests, and we expect to finalize these recommendations to the president in about a week or 2. That's the end of provost report.
Right, thank you, Vice Provost Tong. Seeing no questions, no hands raised, we will move on to our next item. The next item is what? Oh, I'm sorry. Chair Locke, you're recognized.
Thank you. I noticed on the agenda 5.5.6, a telework update. And I was wondering if Vice Provost Tong could provide that update.
Let's see, is Marianne here?
Hi,
Oh,
Bill.
Tom is here, yeah.
Yeah, Nola and the provost invited me to participate and provide the update, and I'm happy to do that and answer any questions. So since we last spoke, we've had a couple of developments with regard to telecommuting within academic affairs. I think it's important to recognize that from a policy and process standpoint, we haven't had any changes. We're still working under a system-wide policy that was negotiated by the Chancellor's office with the staff unions, and the way in which SDSU is implementing and assessing telework has not changed. The provost engaged in quite a bit of assessment with a number of constituencies, and I was able to participate in some of those meetings that included department chairs, deans, and students out of an interest in exploring the operational feasibility of new telework opportunities for admin support staff working in academic departments and student services professionals. And so as a result, new telecommuting for those populations did open up within academic affairs. Specifically at this point, it's 1 day per week. And all the requests are still subject to the position-specific review. Because of the high interest in telecommuting and academic affairs, we worked with the provost office and college dean's offices to create an efficient process. And we relied heavily on resource managers to coordinate directly with department chairs to make sure that they were involved in the assessment and scheduling, as well as determining performance expectations. And as a result, we now have 192 new approved staff telecommuters in academic affairs. There are still a couple of areas that are under assessment. We're still working closely with the dean of the library and the dean of IBC to assess staff telecommuting opportunities in those units. And I anticipate there'll be some decisions coming out of those areas soon.
Okay, thank you. I see we have one hand. Senator Carter Curtis, you're recognized.
Thank you, Chair Butler Bird. Thank you, Tom, for your report. I wanted to ask you, will you be revisiting that 1 day per week opportunity for the summer months? I mean, I know we're about to hit summer and those classes are largely online. So I was just wondering if you had any idea about revisiting that 1 day per week rule.
You know, I think that I still have the perspective that SDSU's experience with telecommuting will evolve with our experience. And we have a number of activities underway to assess perspectives and experiences with telecommuting. We have some initiatives underway to support the training of both telecommuters as well as individuals who are involved in supervising telecommuters. So I think as our capacity to effectively manage these new work relationships changes and grows, I think there will be new opportunities. There has been a lot of operational assessment around intercession telework opportunities and whether or not those intercession periods provide more flexibility. I think that it will continue to be assessed, but based on my understanding right now, operationally, a decision has not been made to support additional intercession teleworking for this coming summer. But I do want to emphasize that we know that there's a lot of interest. We know that there are changes in the labor market that we're paying attention to, and we're reasonably confident that our practices will evolve and change. And I'm certain that college leadership, the provost's office will be monitoring opportunities, and I'm sure that folks will have feedback. I also want to say that our process, and this was something that was negotiated with the staff unions, allows for individuals to make their own request, and we're obligated, to be responsive to those requests. So if an individual feels that their circumstances may warrant some telecommuting that they don't have, they certainly could put forward a request. It would be assessed and responded to in collaboration with academic affairs leadership.
Thank you. Thank you, Director. Where did you go, Tom? Oh, Director Harpole.
You can call me Tom.
No, Tom, thank you. All right, so we will move on to item 5.8, College of Graduate Studies. Dean Love, you're recognized.
Thank you, Chair Butler-Byrd. So I just wanted to quickly update the Senate on an issue that was brought to the SEC and the Senate back in November regarding a faculty member who had gone to the SEC concerned about a fee that they were being charged for a graduate program. Even though that's not something that my unit handles, I was able to connect with Tom Harpole's group, and we were able to help remedy that situation. It was something that should have been part of that individual should have had that fee waived. And it turns out that Tom's group found errors at the CSU level in some of their documentation. They were able to fix it, and that fee was removed. So I figured it would be nice to hear something positive, that there was a positive outcome. I really thank Tom and HR for working as swiftly as they did on helping to rectify the situation. That's all.
Great, thank you. Are there any questions? Seeing no hands raised, thank you, Dean Love, for that report. All right, I don't see any other hands raised. So thank you, President De La Torre, for your report.
Thank you.